Welcome back to your Pediatric Dentist channel Tiny Tip Talks. If you are new to this channel, subscribe the channel, and for details of this channel, visit the bio section, or you can also check out my first video. From today, I am starting to upload individual child psychology theories explanation videos, so stay tuned for all the explanations. Starting with the classification. So this is the classification already given in your book. First classification divide in stages and according to learning pattern. So in stages, there is a stage theories and non-stage theory. Stage theories means development happen in these theories in sequential stages, each with specific characteristics, and you can't skip stages. It includes psychoanalytic, psychosocial, and cognitive theory. In non-stage theory, development is continuous and fluid, not broken into fixed stages, which includes social learning theory. If we divided these according to learning pattern, there is a theories of learning, classical conditioning, operant conditioning, hierarchy of needs, and social learning theory. If we classify this theory into two groups, first is psychodynamic theories and second is theory of learning and development of behavior. So why it is called psychodynamic theory? Psych means mind and dynamic means moving forces. So psychodynamic theories are about how inner forces in the mind like desires, fears, and memories affect how we think and behave. It includes psychosexual theory or psychoanalytic theory by Sigmund Freud in 1905, cognitive theory by Jean Piaget in 1952, psychosocial theory or model of personality development by Erik Erikson in 1963. Then the second group is theory of learning and development of behavior. So these theory include how we learn things like behavior, knowledge, or habits. So basically psychodynamic theory is about inner mind forces, and theories of learning are about ways we pick up new information and skills. So in theories of learning, classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov in 1927, operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner in 1938, hierarchy of needs by Abraham Maslow in 1954, and social learning theory by Albert Bandura in 1963. Today we are going to cover the classical psychoanalytical theory or psychosexual theory. Why it is called psychoanalytic theory? Because psycho is mind and analytic means to examine or break down. Psychoanalytic because it tries to analyze the hidden mental processes to understand why people feel or act a certain way. And psychosexual, again psycho means mind and sexual means related to pleasure or desire. So Freud believed that as children grow, their pleasure seeking energy, which is known as a libido, focuses on different parts of the body at different ages. So psychosexual theory means a theory about how the mind develops through stages of pleasure and desire. There are few theories other than these classified theories, but these are important in pediatric dentistry for both UGs and PGs. But for PGs, I will cover one or two more theories other than this classification, which I thought you should know so that at least you people have knowledge about that. Coming back to the psychosexual or psychoanalytical theory, this theory was given in 1905 by Sigmund Freud, an Australian physician and father of modern day psychiatry. So he gave us a four concept: archaic discharge syndrome, topographic model, psychic triad, and psychosexual theory. He advocated the method of free association, which means the person should say everything that comes to his mind, regardless of how trivial and embarrassing it might be, and by that he gave first concept, which is archaic discharge syndrome. So he said that a body has two type of neurons: phi neurons, which concern with the condition of emotion, and C neuron, which is concerned with the storage of emotion. When the emotions reach a certain level, a discharge is sparked off, and this over display of emotion is called archaic discharge. So how it is important in dental clinic? So if child hears a loud drill, sees sharp tools, or feels something unfamiliar in their mouth, emotions burst out in a form of crying loudly, throwing tantrum, etc. Because they don't yet know how to control or explain them, just their emotions reach certain level and it sparked off. So this is called archaic discharge syndrome. Now, Freud described human mind with the help of two models, one topographic model and the second is psychic model or psychic triad. So, coming to the topographic model. So, Freud compared human mind to an iceberg. Small part above the water represent the conscious experience and the large base below water level represent the unconscious storehouse of impulses, passions and inaccessible memories that affect thoughts and behaviors. Working closely with the conscious mind is what Freud called the preconscious mind. Preconscious mind or available memory, anything that can be easily made conscious, like the memories you are not at that moment thinking about but can readily bring to mind. Freud said that we often try to hide emotions and motives which are in unconscious storehouse from ourselves, not on purpose but because they can make us uncomfortable or ashamed. So these hidden thoughts show up in disguises like dreams, slip of tongue, odd behavior or joke. So how it help in our dental clinic? So in dental setting, a child may seem calm consciously but still act out or become anxious due to the unconscious fear stored below the surface, like dental fear or trauma from early visits, even if the child doesn't remember the experience early. So, if we know about it, we can make the visit and staff comfortable and familiar to the child. So, understanding the iceberg model helps pediatric dentists recognize that behavior is not always logical. Use gentle words and play to soothe both conscious and unconscious fears. Avoid re traumatizing a child whose fear may come from a deep hidden memory. The another model is the psychic model or psychic triad. So Freud in 1923 made the tripartite structural model of ego, id and superego and hypothesized that three structures in this theory to understand the intrapsychic process called psychic triad. Id means our instincts, superego is morality and ego is reality. So basically id is something related to I want this thing. Superego is morality. It says this is not right and you can't buy this, but ego said I need to do a bit of planning to get it. Let's understand this in detail. So it is a primitive basic part of personality. It is a reservoir of instinct. It is present at birth as impulse and strives for immediate pleasure and gratification, that I need this. So it is governed by the pleasure principle. In the dental chair, child screams or bite because they want pain, discomfort to stop immediately, regardless of whether it is necessary treatment. Superego, it develops around 5 to 6 years. So superego is that part of personality that is internalized representation of the values and morals of the society as taught to the child by parents and others. It is essentially an individual concise and it judges whether the action is right or wrong. It is governed by the moral principle. So in clinic, a well developed superego may motivate cooperation. So, I want to be a good boy or girl or cause guilt, shyness if the child misbehave, because by the morals of society and parents, if child misbehave, it is not a good behavior. So, child's superego part said that it is guilt or it is a shyness if you misbehave. So he or she said, I want to be a good boy or girl. Now, ego is the part of self that is concerned with overall functioning and organization of personality through its capacity to test reality and utilization of ego defense mechanism. So, ego defense mechanism, it means the ego uses certain mental strategies to protect us from stress, anxiety, or inner conflict, especially when the id, which is our desires, and the superego, which is our moral rules, clash. So ego use the ego defense mechanism and other functions like memory, language and creativity. It is the mediator between id and superego. It channelize id into socially acceptable way, develops after birth and expand with the age. It's governed by the reality principle. Now in the dental chair, this conflict play out as id driven fear or discomfort, super ego driven guilt or desire to please. So ego deciding whether to cry, cooperate or shut down. We already talk about this ego defense mechanism. So let's see what ego defense mechanism acts. So ego acts by the following defense mechanism. They use these 9 concepts to protect us and to decide when there is a clash of our desires and our morals. So first is projection. Projection means projecting one's own feeling of inadequacy into someone else to feel more comfortable. So the child places their own feeling onto someone else. Dental example is a scared child says the dentist look nervous. The child is feeling anxious but cannot admit it, so they project that fear onto the dentist or the assistant. The second is denial, denying existence of the threatening situation so as to avoid tackling it. So in denial, the child refuses to accept the painful truth. So a dental example is the child has a visible cavity but says there's nothing wrong with my teeth, I don't need treatment. He don't accept the truth. The child is overwhelmed by fear and pretends the problem doesn't exist. Third is identification. So imitating qualities of someone else to remove or vent frustration or create fantasy. So the child copies someone they see as strong or brave. So for example, the child says I'm going to be brave like my dad who never cries at the doctor. So imitating a role model helps the child feel more in control in the clinic. Then regression. So in the face of threat, one may retreat to an earlier pattern of adaptation, possibly a childish or primitive one. The child reverts to baby-like behavior under stress. So when an 8-year-old start shucking their thumb, using baby talk, or insist on sitting on their parents' lap, you should understand that this is a regression. The dental environment triggers a return to earlier comforting behavior. The fifth is reaction formation. So reversal of motive is another method by which people attempt to cope with conflict. The principle of these is that the best defense is a good offense. So in reaction formation, the child express the opposite of what they truly feel. So the child says I love going to dentist but is gripping the chair tightly, trembling or clenching the teeth. The child masks fear by pretending to enjoy the experience. The repression is the process of unconscious forgetting which allows for separation of painful experiences. So basically it is an active mental process by which a person forgets by pushing down into the unconscious mind any thoughts that arouse anxiety. So in this case, the child blocks out scary or traumatic dental memories unconsciously. So when you ask about a painful past procedure, the child says I don't remember anything. The mind hides the memory to avoid relieving the emotional stress. But when you ask these about their parents, the truth reveals. Coming to the rationalization, the development of logical excuses to explain behavior because the real action motive is unacceptable. People make excuses by giving a reason different from the real one for what they are doing. So in rationalization, the child give excuses to avoid facing anxiety. The child says I brushed really well this morning so I don't need a filling today. They are trying to justify avoiding the procedure by creating a logical reason. Coming to the sublimation, so the redirection of socially acceptable drives into socially acceptable channel to allow the discharge of instinctive impulses in an acceptable form. So in sublimation, the child redirects their fear into a positive or acceptable actions. The child says, can I help hold the suction or tell me what that tool does? Instead of crying, they become curious and cooperative, redirecting their fear into involvement. And the last one, 9, displacement. In this, the motive remains unaltered, but the person substitutes a different goal object for the original. So in this case, the child shifts emotion from one source to a safer target. So after treatment, the child throws their toys or kicks the footrest not at the dentist but at something else. So the child can't express anger towards the dentist, so they take it out on on something else. Now the last concept, which is a stages of psychosexual theory. On the concept of id, ego and superego, Freud defined 5 phases of psychology. These 5 stages are linked to the pleasurable erotic body zones. Basically, these are the specific body part where a child's libido or psychic energy is centered during a particular stage of development. So each one stage blends into the next stage, and relative prominence of each stage varies with the individual. Now the first is the oral stage, which is at the age of 0 to 1.5 years, and erogenous zone in focus is mouth. Gratifying activity means the babies get pleasure or comfort by this activity, so it's called gratification or gratifying activity, which are nourishing, eating, as well as mouth movement, including sucking, biting, and swallowing. Interactions with the environment. So, to the infant, the mother's breast not only is the source of food and drink but also represent her love. Because the child's personality is controlled by id and therefore demand immediate gratification, responsive nurturing is key. If the child's need during the oral stage aren't properly met, like being weaned too early or overfeed, Freud believed they might get stuck at this stage. So this is called an oral fixation. So in this stage, the oral fixation symptoms are smoking, nail biting, drinking, prolonged pacifier use, thumb sucking, bottle feeding, sarcasm. So they might develop these things in future. In dental setting, we should counsel the parents about these habits and their cause. Use comfort techniques during examination, which is lap to lap and mother present. The second stage is anal stage, age 1.5 to 3 years, and the erogenous zone in focus is anus. And gratifying activities are bowel movement and the withholding of such a movement. So interaction with the environment. The major event at this stage is toilet training, a process through which children are taught when, where, and how excretion is deemed appropriate by society. Children at this stage start to notice the pleasure and displeasure associated with the bowel movements through toilet training. By exercising control over the retention and expulsion of feces, a child can choose to either grant or refuse parents' wishes. Now, symptoms of anal fixation is divided into anal expulsive personality and anal retentive personality. So in anal expulsive personality, if the parents are too lenient and fail to instill the society's rule about bowel movement control, the child will derive pleasure and success from the expulsion. Individuals with a fixation on this mode of gratification are excessively sloppy, disorganized, reckless, careless, and defiant. In anal retentive personality, if a child receives excessive pressure and punishment from parents during toilet training, he will experience anxiety during bowel movements and hence will withhold such a functions. Individuals with such fixations are clean, orderly, and intolerant to those who are not clean. So in dental setting, at this stage, child start taking control power. So offer guided choice like, do you want to sit on this chair or that chair, and also use positive reinforcement after cooperation. Urethral stage. So the urethral stage isn't part of Freud's original 5 psychosexual stage, but some later psychoanalysts like William Range and others proposed it as a transitional phase between anal and phallic stage. It's thought to occur roughly around 2.5 to 4 years of age, overlapping with the toilet training and early genital awareness. Urethral stages are basically 2.5 to 4 or 3 to 4 years, and this is a transitional stage between anal and phallic and has a characteristic of both. Gratifying activity is the pleasure in urination. Interactions with the environment. The characteristic of the urethral stage are often subsumed under those of the phallic stage, and similar issue of performance and control are related to urethral functioning. So urethral competence provide a sense of pride and self-competence, as a small boy can imitate and match his father's adult performance. Coming to the phallic stage, the age is 4 to 5 years. Erogenous zone in focus is genitals, and gratifying activities are genital fondling. Interaction with the environment. So this is probably the most challenging challenging stage in person's psychosexual development. The key event at this stage, according to the Freud, is the child's feeling of attraction toward the parent of the opposite sex, together with the envy and fear of the same sex parents. So, in boys, this situation is called the Oedipus complex, and in girls, this type of attraction is called the Electra complex. So, there is a story behind it. First, we talk about Oedipus complex. So, Oedipus was a prince of Thebes. Before he was born, a prophecy warned that he would kill his father and marry his mother. To prevent this, his parents, King Louis and Queen Jocasta, abandoned him as a baby, hoping he would die. But fate had other plans. A shepherd rescued Oedipus and gave him to the king and queen of Corinth, who raised him as their own child. As a young man, Oedipus heard the same prophecy and, not knowing he was adopted, fled Corinth to avoid harming his parents. On his journey, he killed a man in war, unaware it was his real father Louis. So later he solved the riddle of the Sphinx and was rewarded by becoming king of Thebes and marrying the widowed queen Jocasta, his biological mother. So when the truth was revealed, Jocasta took her own life and Oedipus blinded himself in horror and shame. So Freud believed that during the phallic stage, children develop unconscious desire for the opposite sex parent and see the same sex parent as a rival. A boy may feel love for his mother and jealousy towards his father. This creates internal conflict, which is resolved when the child begins to identify with the same sex parents. Now, when we talk about Electra complex, so Electra was the daughter of King Agamemnon and Queen Clytemnestra. After Agamemnon returned from the Trojan War, the queen and her lover Aegisthus murdered him. So Electra, devastated, convinced her brother Orestes to help her avenge their father's death by killing their mother and her lover. These myths become a metaphor for her daughter's intense emotional attachment to her father and rivalry with her mother. So that's why it is called Oedipus complex and Electra complex. Now, symptoms of phallic fixation. For men, anxiety and guilty feelings about sex, fear of castration, and narcissist personality, which is interest in one's own feature. In women, it is implied that women never progress past this stage fully and will always maintain a sense of envy and inferiority, but there are no possible fixations resulting from this stage. So, in dental clinic, a child feel embarrassed being treated by the opposite gender and also fear of doing something may trigger guilt, so make sure avoid trigger these things and make environment comfortable and familiar. The fourth stage is latency stage, which is at the age of 5 years to puberty, and erogenous zone in focus is none, because this is the period during which sexual feelings are suppressed to allow children to focus their energy on the other aspects of life. This is a time of adjusting to the social environment outside of home, absorbing the culture, forming beliefs and value, developing same sex friendships, engaging in sports, etc. Much of the child's energies are channeled into developing new skills and acquiring new knowledge, and play become largely confined to other children of the same gender. So in dental clinic, they are generally cooperative, so use rewards, verbal praise, involve them into toothbrushing demonstration or model explanation, allow time to process instruction logically. Coming to the fifth stage, which is genital, the age is puberty onwards. Erogenous zone in focus is genital again. Gratifying activities are heterosexual relationships. So these stages marked by a renewed sexual interest and desire and the pursuit of relationship. So these are three major sources of sexual arousal during this period. First is the memories and sensations from early childhood periods, physical manipulation of genitals and other erogenous zone, and the third one is hormonal secretion. Many of the themes and anxieties of earlier stages resurface but in new and more mature forms. In particular, the targets of sexual arousal now lie outside the tiny circle of self and family. Mature heterosexual relations emerge with the species preserving possibility of procreation now very rare. Well, the fixation this stage does not cause any fixation, because according to Freud, if people experience difficulty at this stage, the damage was done in earlier oral, anal, and phallic stages. So these people come into this last stage of development with the fixation from earlier stages. For example, attraction to the opposite sex can be a source of anxiety at this stage if the person has not successfully resolved the Oedipus or Electra conflict. The merits of one of the earliest and the most comprehensive theories of lifelong psychological development, but Freud formulated this theory based on his extensive studies on adult psychological patients, not child. Hence, its extrapolation to children is not very justified. This theory is based on obsessed observation of the psychologist. These are the references. In next video, we will learn about psychosocial theory and the theory of developmental stages by Eric Erikson. If you want this as a PDF or any other PDF, just like, subscribe, and comment or mail ID with the topic, and I'll share you the PDF. New videos on Sunday. We also put image based MCQs in pediatric dentistry in our shorts, and we'll put lots of other type of MCQ related to pediatric dentistry. So press the bell icon for every update. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.